Welcome to Richard and Greg, a channel dedicated to discussion, debate and argument on a whole array of topics. Today we ask Greg for a quick update with regards to the coronavirus pandemic, quoting up-to-date figures and asking him, what do we do while we await the vaccines becoming available to us all? So let's take a listen. Welcome to Richard and Greg. It's Friday, 4th of December 2020, 1802 GMT. Coronavirus. We haven't had an update for a very short while, and with over 66 or about 66 million cases worldwide, with 1.5 million deaths, and the United States now having hit the highest daily death toll ever, for the last 2 days in excess of 2,000 deaths a day and 200,000 infections a day as well, over 200,000. We have to ask the question, is this getting out of hand? And will the vaccines be here in time? So let's go over to Greg and ask him. Greg, good evening.
Good evening to you. Yeah, it's probably worth revisiting coronavirus again today. It is omnipresent in the news. We have in that the United Kingdom has 68 million population. The world number of cases has now reached 66 million, so near as damn it the same as Britain's population. And this has given rise to over 1.5 million deaths worldwide so far. And with a large number of people still suffering from the disease, we can reasonably expect many more to die, even if we stopped it stone dead today. America is currently in a position where 855 people per million have died so far. But this is a figure that inexorably continues to climb. And although it claims to have had 283,610 deaths from COVID-19, some American authorities are saying that due to the handling of the virus to date and the precautionary measures that have failed to be brought in, it is very reasonable to expect that there will be in excess of 500,000 deaths by February. That will mean that we're round about 1,600 deaths per million of the population. I don't claim that Britain's doing a great deal better, but we do have a rather better excuse in that we are a much more densely populated country and much smaller in area, with a smaller percentage of rural space between people. So city by city, town by town, village by village, social distancing is that much more difficult in Britain. Our figures are higher in cases per million than those of America. I repeat, America's at 855 per million. Britain is currently on 891 per million. So this is inexorably continuing. I do accept that there are all sorts of claims that there will be a vaccine, but have you listened to those claims? Such statements are as, but to start with, we will need with this vaccine 2 injections. One on a given date, which will within about 7 days be expected to provide a level of immunity. A second injection, 21 days after the first, which will within 7 to 10 days of that injection provide a higher level of immunity. Sounds good to me. But there is another underlying caveat. They don't know how long it will provide immunity in as far as it does. It seems to be providing immunity quite well, with somewhere around the 90% protection. But we don't know how long that will last. Will it be good for a year, or will it merely be good for that mutation of COVID-19 and be completely ineffective for the next mutation? And when you consider that it does look very much as if we have had 4 and almost definitely 3 mutations of COVID in under a year, it isn't quite as reassuring as it might be at first glance. It is more like, it would seem to me, the flu jab, which is not a vaccine at all. It is merely injecting antibodies from last year's mutation in the hope that that will reduce the efficacy of this year's mutation. But it is only a hope, and still, despite that vaccine being named a vaccine by many people, that particular jab has been available for a very long time, but we still get a lot of people dying of influenza every year. Some years, much worse than others, when the mutation has been more effective from the vaccine, from the virus's point of view. It all seems a little bit woolly to me, and I revert to statements that I made right at the beginning of this event in February, when I said this could well steadily progress, becoming worse and worse. That's not to say it will, but there is a strong possibility, because it has killed sequentially more and more people since February, when I first gave the caveat that this could run to millions killed. And if we liken it to Spanish flu in any way, 1917 killed very few people. 1918, on the second and third wave of Spanish flu, killed a huge number more. And it was only fortuitous that it died out towards the end of 1919, with a few sporadic cases still around in 1920, when the death rate worldwide, with a much smaller population than we have nowadays, stood at between 50 and 100 million deaths worldwide. So let's not be complacent about this. Let's not listen to the idiots who say, don't wear a mask, it doesn't help, because it is absolute bunkum to make that statement. If you put any element of screening between a person with the virus and a person who is vulnerable without the virus, any element of screening will improve the situation. Be that a mask on the individual with potential to catch it, where the screening is about 5% effective, or a mask on the person who has, frequently unbeknown to themselves, asymptomatic COVID-19, where the degree of screening for the potential victim, all too often a more senior member of the family being exposed to an asymptomatic younger member, then the masks on both of them will help save the life of parent or grandparent.
Okay, and what about in the United Kingdom, Greg? Have they got it right here?
No, categorically not. We should have a centralized system with Mickey Mouse little regions having their own say to how they want to appear different. Is absolute lunacy on an island as small as Great Britain. Don't forget that in Great Britain, to put this in perspective, particularly for Americans, the furthest you can be from the sea around our coast is 72 miles. Britain is tiny. You are looking at 68 million people living in an area not dissimilar in shape and size to Florida. And to have multiple regional assemblies all calling different shots on something as complex as coronavirus, when we only have one national health service to deal with it, where we have centralized control of the military, should they be required to assist in the logistics of distribution of vaccines or the like, to have meddlesome morons around the periphery trying to look important is lunacy on stilts.
So you think Boris Johnson's done a good job then?
I think he's doing the best that he can on the advice that he has available and the realization that he has to take with him people who are trying to puff up their stuffed shirts and seem important by varying and criticizing the policy. People are point scoring or endeavoring to point score politically at the expense of lives, utterly irresponsibly. He is doing the best that he, as our elected government, can do. And if he's making mistakes, I am not at all surprised. One, because of the tripwires that are being produced all around him by political opponents, and two, because we are in uncharted waters. He can only do the best he can. Of course he's making mistakes. Anyone in that position would make mistakes, but they would not be making the venal, self-interested mistakes that are being made by some individuals around the periphery for their own political gain.
And on that note, Greg, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night. We hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if so, kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of our videos as and when they are published. And also in the description box below, we place links to certain books, articles, and programs which you may find of benefit, and for which we will receive a small commission should you purchase through our link, and this will help support our channel and to enable us to develop it further.